Happy Martin Luther King Day, everyone. I hope no one is bothered by me co-opting this, but I have a dream like many of y'all have a dream. What this holiday to me is about is people overcoming differences and coming together as one. And like many of y'all, I have a dream that one day Jehovah's Witnesses, apostates, disfellowship people, non-witnesses, all of us can come together and judge each other not on the basis of religion, but on content of character. I mean, that's truly what this is about. And I also, to those of us coming out of this organization, we can already say, free at last, thank God Almighty that we are free at last. And I'm hoping one day we can all be reconciled and we can say that anew together. I would like to give a shout out to Daniel. I'm going to include his video or his channel in the About section. He has a really kind manner, and I like his presentation style, and I like his humility and his meekness and his quiet tone. And he has a lot of informative information about undue influence that is calmly presented. I think that we can all benefit, and he needs our support, and we certainly need his. Good work, Daniel, for all of the things that you've done so far, and will do in the future. The reason why many of us might be struggling is because of the shunning issue. Of course, the Watchtower says, it's part of theocratic warfare. We don't shun. And shunning is a myth. Of course, the dictionary definition of shunning is to avoid, especially persistently. Do Jehovah's Witnesses avoid persons or persistently avoid people? Yes. That is shunning. And there are various tiers or degrees of shunning. The first degree, of course, we all know, is disfellowshipping or disassociation. If you're disfellowshipped or disassociated, then you're to be completely avoided. They will not, witnesses cannot speak to you then. They can't invite you over, they can't email you, or text you, or call you. It's there to completely avoid you. Completely. Well, that's a rather redundant sentence, but it's extreme. And of course, it's based on an extreme interpretation of Scripture that's taken out of context. I'm not going to go into that today, the technical discussions. I have 2 other videos on another channel, Not Eating with Such a Man, and Not Even Hello, that talk about, what do these scriptures mean in context, what did it mean to that audience back then, and but if you're watching this, most likely you know good and well already that it's just not scriptural, it's extreme interpretation. So that's neither here nor there. Of course, there are 2 loopholes in the Watchtower rules. One loophole is if you're living within the same household. So you just can't have religious discussions. Which, if that's all it were, that would be great. But of course, a lot of times it puts a huge strain on family relationships, and sometimes in the case of a marriage, the spiritual endangerment card is played, and separations and divorce happen as a result. I know a friend, I'm not going to name names, but he was in his own home and his wife said, "I'm not going to have you poison my children's minds." And she gave him an eviction notice from his own home. So as long as you're in that home, the people who actually live there don't have to shun you. But that's only, you might find, some people might find themselves swiftly on the outside. And then there is necessary family business. And it's the second loophole. But the Watchtower, of course, is like, doesn't want people to use that as an excuse. And some people, it's not really defined well. So some witnesses might be more likely to be safe. We just won't have any association at all. I know in my case, when my grandfather was alive, he actually didn't shun me, because I think he grew up in an organization that was far different from the organization that it evolved into. So, but my parents were shunning me. And my grandfather went into the hospital because of pneumonia, almost died, and I had no idea. I kept trying to contact him. I couldn't get a hold of him. Didn't know what had happened. I'm not even sure if he had passed away at that time that my parents would have told me or not. I had to find out through a third party. It's sad, but that is the reality of that. Most of the time, if you're disfellowshipped or disassociated, a witness will not talk to you. If they see you, they will avoid eye contact. They will, in some cases, they might cross the street rather than cross the same side as you. Of course, there are a few witnesses who might buck the rule there. However, they're in danger if they were caught associating with a disfellowshipped or disassociated person. They themselves will be subject to judicial committee and disfellowshipped and be shunned. So it's enforced. So there's no way that this is something that's voluntary, that a person decides to do on their own conscience, since it is enforced. But of course, this is, as I said, the top tier. Now, what about the second tier? That would be marking, the official marking that the elders give. They will give a talk about what a person did. A person has violated the Watchtower rules, but not in such a way that a judicial committee can form. For instance, perhaps they have gotten engaged to a non-JW. In that case, a marking talk would occur. Of course, the person wouldn't be named from the platform, perhaps because of legal reasons, but people can add 2 and 2. If they can't add 2 and 2, the rumor mill will fill them in, especially in a congregation of about 100 people or so. And if you want to know what's going on, go in midweek service, and you can be filled in by the pioneers real quick. I found that out. They know exactly what's going on. And of course, it doesn't stay to that one congregation. Word gets out really quickly. So a person who is marked, even though they aren't named, they might as well be named. But, in this second tier of shunning, people can still speak to you and say hello, but at the meetings maybe, but they can't hang out with you. They, can't have lunch or dinner. They can't invite you anywhere. They can't accept invites. So, or at least they're not supposed to if they're aware that you're the object of being marked. So, of course, that you have that second tier. It's lesser. It's still a form of avoidance, persistent avoidance. It's a form of shunning. The third tier is more unofficial, and this is where one witness can personally decide to mark another witness for any number of reasons. And frankly, it's a very judgmental organization, and it could be based on a book you read or a movie you decided to see, or any number of reasons, a witness might decide to, unofficially mark you. They might withdraw their association because of that. Of course, this might occur, if a person is irregular, or especially if they're inactive. Invites will dry up really quickly. Now, of course, there's nothing in black and white that can be traced back to the Watchtower that says the inactive need to be shunned or, avoided to a certain degree. However, there was a yearbook experience a few years ago where a girl went to the convention, got baptized, came back and told her inactive friend that she couldn't be friends with anymore, to get help from the elders. So, that's not command, but these things are held as an example to people. So it's almost between, if you read between the lines, that's encouraged, and some COs have gotten up on stage and said exactly that. So, there is that third level. Or, let me add, if you're suspected of having apostate thinking, or apostate leanings, you can be personally marked by another witness easy enough. I know that's more, I guess I would fall within this category as a faded witness. That's why some of my friendships, one in particular, went nuclear, unfortunately, and it does hurt every day. But I'm sorry, I'm trying to get back to the point of discussion. So we have the official shunning of the disfellowshipped and disassociated. Then those who are marked officially, those personally marked, and then we come down to the more to the lower level, diffuse level of shunning or avoidance that witnesses can find themselves in, even if they cross all their T's and dot all their I's and obey every Watchtower rule and underline all their magazines and get 10 hours a month or more and attend all meetings and do all that. Because, every group, it's in the human condition. People can find themselves left out. And, that's true pretty much anywhere. But in a judgmental organization, when there are myriads of rules, either written, unwritten, spoken, unspoken, you can be judged on any number of things and find yourself pushed out to the, marginalized easy. And that's a form of shunning, a very low level, because, people avoid them in their close, they don't include people. They have no room in their hearts, they're not widened out, as it were. And I know I've experienced this as a witness in good standing. I was often left out. I had, the hardest part of it was thinking that this is the most loving organization on earth, and on the other hand, not feeling it. Why am I left out? And based on, I'm not popular, I'm not measuring up to this or that, I'm not on the in-group. So many, I'm not the only one. I'm sure many of y'all can identify being marginalized, being on the outside, simply because, it's a popularity issue. But people can find themselves in, social exclusion really easily. I know single sisters probably struggle with this more than any others, and it's really sad. And I'm sure a lot of the older people, as well as they get old and toward the end of my grandparents' lives, fewer and fewer people visited them. So, the problem is, it's out of sight, out of mind. And even if you move to another congregation, meeting in the same building, if you don't, people forget about you really easily, super quick. And, you thought you bonded with the person, but, as Stephen Hassan said, in groups like this, a lot of friendships are just an illusion. There's an illusion of depth, but in reality, the friendships formed are really shallow, and you might not even see that, until the day it all evaporates. That came as a complete shock. Shunning is part of the fabric of being a witness. It's so much so that even if the governing body or the Watchtower decided to eliminate this from their rules, from their practices, that the inertia, a lot of witnesses it would take decades before they could make a U-turn. It's so ingrained. Well, I'm sorry for rambling on so long, but those are the 4 levels of shunning and the 4 degrees. And it's something that maybe we don't have a real good solution for, but at least we can identify, it helps identify and talk about the problem. Again, happy Martin Luther King Day, everyone, and hope everyone has a good weekend.